What
No,
did you mentioned a lot of things, but just in your career, you focus so much on young Black men. And I mean, we think about just what happened with the recent murder of Ahmaud, and it's like, what advice do you have for the Black men listening to this?
yeah, it's only been recent that I think I traced back where that passion comes from. I wrote this piece. I still haven't released it,
Mm-hmm.
but I wrote this piece called "Reggie's Dead,"
Mm,
and I haven't released it yet. But it was I think I was 10, maybe 9 or 10, maybe 11 years old, and you know how in our neighborhoods we have big brothers or play big
yes.
brothers or play big sisters. So you're really not related to them, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, they're your play family. And so Reggie was my play big brother, and he took me everywhere. And I grew up in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's one of the worst places to raise a Black man in the country, statistically.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so Reggie, he was into what a lot of brothers are into to survive, right? And he would take me around, and it was like riding around with the king because he has so much respect in the streets. No one wanted to fuck with him. Like, it
Yeah.
was just that thing, right? And one day, found out that Reggie, he was dead. And
Ugh.
they said that he hung himself, right?
Wow.
Which everyone knew wasn't the case, but the police had cornered him in a house in an attic, and they said he hung himself before they got to him. So, but the thing I always think about, and I think where my passion comes from, is like, man, Reggie was so charismatic. He was one of them brothers. Like when he smiled, everyone smiled.
Yeah.
He was super sharp, super intelligent. He was that leader, and so I often wondered, like, if more brothers like Reggie had the opportunity that I ended up getting, right? So I bought my first house when I was 19. What if Reggie's parents had owned a home, right, in a
Man.
nicer neighborhood with a better education? Reggie would be running. He would have created Google. Like Reggie
Right.
Reggie would be running a Fortune 500 company right now. And so the only difference is that there's systematic racism that keeps Black and brown brothers and sisters from
Hmm.
achieving their full potential. And then it's positioned as a character flaw. And so
Mm.
one of my life's mission is to just unleash that potential in these brothers, and sisters. But I'm very passionate about young Black men.
Yeah.
And
I
because
mean, I'm
I
not
see,
ashamed. I have three older
yeah,
brothers. I see the need. Yeah.
yeah, and so when you look at what just happened with, Aubrey, it's like, all that potential
Oh,
gone. Who
yeah.
could he have been? And what do we need to do? So it's one thing we gotta stop putting the onus on them. Well, oh, they gotta stop getting in trouble. No, you know what? Let's stop putting up these false barriers in front
Mm.
of them that don't need to be there. And a brother like Shaka, like I said, to be able to give him $5,000, $10,000, that was huge, man. I was
Right.
like, here, man, run. Because and then I coached him. I was like, you put that Ford name behind you, and you tell people Ford funded you, and
Yeah.
you make it seem like we gave you $100 million.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you leverage that name as much as you can, and that's what I'm committed to doing, because the talent is powerful, and I really do think if you lift up the brothers, then you're going to lift up the entire community,
Yeah.
and
I agree. I mean,
community
the
needs
statistics are
strong Black
there.
men, and the
Yeah.
statistics are there.
That's real. And so, I mean, man, what would you say? Because you've worked at so many different places, but being on the funding side of things at Ford, and I think you can just gather so much from being in some of those big systems. What was the biggest thing you learned when it came to just, making money, allocating money, anything else that was a big learning?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I would say for folks is, one. Um, so I had a number of big ahas. One was that
Mm,
I was just as talented as anybody else in that
right.
corporate. Like, I would stack myself up against anyone. And I think so often, because we don't know someone at a Fortune 500, we don't know. So there's this myth that, wow, they must be really super smart and intelligent.
Right.
And you know what? Some of them are, right? But I would stack myself up against any of them, and that was a big aha for me at 40 something years old, to be like, shit, I'm just as talented as they are, right?
Right.
So The only thing I hate is that it took me 40 something years to figure that out. Right. So,
Mm,
so if I can impress anything on the class of 2020 is know your worth sooner
come
rather than
on.
later. Right. And that's number one. The second thing is from a funding standpoint, go the earned revenue route. Philanthropy is
Mm,
cool, but
mm,
that's what I pointed out for that data that came out from Bridgespan and
right.
Echo and Green is that there is racial bias in funding. That's just the truth. And so the sooner you can get to an earned revenue model, the better, because then you can still get that philanthropy dollars, but you don't live and die by it. So even at the Boys and Girls Club, we're the first Boys and Girls Club in the country to offer co-working space,
Come
right? So that's
on.
my earned revenue model.
Innovation.
Yeah, that's my earned revenue model, right?
Yes. Because you got a
And
lot of
then
space.
got a ton of space,
Yeah.
right? And it sits
Wow.
empty most of the day. So what do you do with that
Wow.
space when the kids aren't there? And then
And
how
that's just like keeping track of your assets, like knowing what your value is, knowing what assets you already have at your disposal. And I think there's so many folks watching who don't even realize you're already wealthy. You already have assets and leverage that.
yeah, I mean, it's this $1 trillion ghetto mindset,
Whew.
a mindset that we need to have, right? And it's not by accident that we look at abandoned homes and we're like, oh, it's blight, it's this, it's that, and then someone of Caucasian,
Come on.
right? They'll come and they'll be like, oh man, cheap property, I'm about to buy that up, do blah blah blah, right? And I think it's the same thing. They're actually talking about selling our properties and our clubs and going into schools, and I'm like, whoa, no, like we have property that we don't owe anything on, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't we figure out how to monetize that? And so we're doing that. We're getting ready to open up our space for small businesses and provide our space at below market rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which once again creates more earned revenue for us, but then it brings entrepreneurs in the door.
Right.
Hopefully, it becomes moms and dads and neighbors and all that good stuff. So now we're driving economic mobility once again.
Right.
And so the biggest thing is what I learned is, last time the Great Recession happened in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
Ford went from giving 100 million to 10 million.
Mm.
And they weren't unique in that. Most corporations went down
Right.
significantly or stopped giving altogether. So if you're trying to build a nonprofit or a social venture on philanthropy dollars, 50% are going to go out of business, 40, 50%
Hmm.
in the next 3 years. So you got to have that earned revenue model in order to
That's
back it up.
smart.
So know your self-worth and develop an earned revenue model.
Know your self-worth and earn revenue. And then, I mean, speaking of just community economic development and change, what grade would you give the current state of Black wealth as a community?
Well, let's see. I would give it a grade.
Mm-hmm. A to
So
F.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question, right? Because there is Black wealth, right?
Absolutely.
More than at any other time before. So for that, I don't know. I'd give it a C, maybe even a B, right? Hey,
Okay.
there's Black wealth out there. But how we're rocking it, I'd probably give it a D or an F, right? I think we just, and some of the concepts are so old, and I've been hearing them my whole life, and you've been hearing, you got to shop Black, you got to do this,
Right.
but yet we don't do it. And so much of it is because of the
Execute.
story to execute. So much of it is the storytelling and the narrative that we're told. And I was just having this conversation with someone because she made a comment about, well, dealing with our people. And I had to
Hmm.
stop and I said, look, you know what? I used to be like that too, right? I used to have
Yeah.
that mindset. And then I had this aha moment where I'm like, we'll go into a Black restaurant, and the first time something happened, we're like, see,
Right.
okay. But we'll go into a trendy white restaurant and get bad service. And guess what? We'll come back. It was a fluke.
Whew.
It was a fluke. It was a fluke, right?
Yeah.
Now, if they continue to give us bad service, we'll walk away. But
Right.
if it's once or twice or whatever, we'll keep coming back. But we don't give our folks that that ability. And so I started, one of the organizations I helped to support, I sit on the board of, is Urban Content Studios. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's made up of a group of content collectors, or creators, content
Mm-hmm.
creators, videographers, writers, et cetera, you name it. And it's all about giving them access to business. And I helped to start it when I was at Ford, right? I was
Nice.
like, man, let me empower these folks. So I gave them all Ford business because I was tired of giving business to firms that their their skill set was tight, but
Yeah.
the stories they were telling were culturally irrelevant, right? They couldn't tap into the culture piece of it.
Right.
And then I started coming across like these young brothers and sisters who were like so dope, and I'm like, man, how do I just pay them, to create my content? And so, long story short, over 3 years, we put, at the end of this year, we would have put over $1 million directly into creators' pocket,
Wow.
right? Primarily in Detroit. And I think that's the kind of stuff we have to do. It's not even passively, circulating dollars in our community. I
Mm-hmm.
think we have to be intentionally aggressive about doing it.
Yeah.
And, and doing stuff like, okay, I'm going to get three
Intentionally
quotes.
aggressive.
Yeah, intentionally aggressive. And so, doing things like, hey, I'm going to get three quotes, two quotes from, people of color, and then one quote
Mm-hmm.
from non-person of color. And then, quite honestly, if you end up going with the, non-person of color, I'd coach up the brothers and sisters as to why I didn't go with them, right?
Right.
If they want to hear it,
Right.
right?
Right. That's a whole
But
nother story.
yeah, but or maybe give them the blueprint for how to get business. I
Yeah.
mean, so we have to do that, because that's economic mobility is everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. Every issue we face as Black folks, it boils down to poverty. It boils down to lack of economic mobility.
Yeah.
And unless we address that, we're just wasting our time on other stuff.
I mean, that's the whole reason why I started Student Dream. Like our vision is to create Black wealth. I mean, when you
Right.
look at the racial wealth gap, and with on the for-profit side, I have another business called Black Wealth Matters,
Yep.
where we talk about Black wealth matters
Yep.
and
Yep.
how to build it. So the reason I asked that was not just to look at the issue, but hey, let's come up with a solution and execute on
Absolutely.
it. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. And then, like, I guess man, the last question, or one of the last questions I want to ask, is just around sports, art, and music. So I think when I talk with a lot of my friends, and I mean, everybody loves sports, everybody loves arts and music. It's a great venue, but I think sometimes we see the our community only focus on those industries without realizing that, I mean, if you really want to build wealth, you better look at insurance, financial services, media, that's where all the billionaires are at. And
Yep.
so can you talk to me about kind of just how to expand our vision? Not to say we can't look at sports and media, but just again, expanding the vision of opportunities and options that are out there when it comes to career and building wealth and being able to support yourself, your family, your community.
Yeah. So I actually have a different take on it, right?
Okay, please.
I think we should just dominate those industries,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things where, so if we think about ourselves as a brand, right?
Mm,
If I'm trying to, sell a phone, right? I'm going to get traction on one phone first before I offer 10 phones or 20 phones,
right.
right? And so I think it's the same thing. Since we have our foot in the door
Hmm.
with sports and entertainment and media, then let's fully dominate that from the top to the bottom, from
Right.
marketing to you name it. But let's fully dominate it. And I think you're starting to see some of that. Like, you see the way LeBron James, what he's
Yeah.
doing. I mean, that's that's what we need to do, right? But then we also need LeBron James to do more of putting more people on, more of us on, right? And I think that's important. But let's fully own it. And when I say own it, I mean,
The whole
from
supply
ownership.
chain.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. So I
Hmm.
mean, just fully own it, from ownership to concessions, right? Like,
Wow,
and
right.
everything in between. Like, let's just fully own that, and then start to expand from there. Music, same thing. Entertainment, same thing. Our
Hmm.
media, same thing. And I also think we have our foot in the door on some of the most important. We have to begin to tell our story better and own our
Hmm.
narrative, because that just has a really big ripple effect.
Yeah.
And the other reason I'm so passionate about Black men, because for years we've been told Black men ain't nothing, right? Like,
Right,
oh, they don't do
right.
this, and
It's not
it's
true.
not true. It's not true. And that's why I did start Men of Courage when I was at Ford, because it started every Father's Day. I would do a brunch the day before Father's Day, and I would invite a group of brothers together, and
Hmm.
very eclectic, multi-generational, and we just sit
Nice.
around and talk. And it always struck me that our conversations were, about, we want to be good husbands, we want to be good
Yeah.
fathers, we want to be good citizens, we want to be good, like, all these things in our dreams and aspirations. But that's not what was being portrayed in the media.
Right.
The Men of Courage was really started to shake that narrative and advance the narrative to say, no, this is who Black men truly are. And so I think we have to do more of that, and we have to own the music, we have to own the media. Films, you're starting to see some movement around that, but let's fully own it, so that we can
Yeah.
tell our stories in an authentic way, that never been done before.
Yeah. And what do you think's really going to move the needle on that? Like what's the hindrance now? Why we're
I mean, I
not?
think it's getting there. It's just not getting there quick enough, I think.
Okay.
And I think it's that, being intentionally aggressive about
Yes. Yeah.
it goes back to that. It's don't have the mindset that one day when you blow up, you'll reach back. Like, no, if I take a
Mm.
step, if I'm on the second step, I'm going to reach back and bring a brother on the first step. When I get to the
Right.
third step, I'm bringing someone to the ninth step, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And so every step of the way, or even hell, even better yet, I'm on 10th step, you on the 10th step.
Come on.
I mean, you don't have to be behind me, and
Who do you think's a good example of that? Like who do you admire who's doing that aside from yourself? Right? Who do
uh,
you admire that's doing that right now?
Will Packer, like that whole
Mm.
group, like all those folks, man, they're doing such amazing work of,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they're doing amazing work, like,
Yeah.
making sure that their sets are and this is what I mean by making sure that their sets are representative of their race, right? So whether it's a makeup artist, a stylist, whoever, but they're just putting everybody on.
That's
um
good.
the sister,
Put everybody on.
don't
Issa Rae?
don't shoot me on this one.
Issa
What's her
Rae?
name? Yes, she's killing the
Okay.
game. She's killing
Yeah.
the game, because how they see us. I remember
Oh, you mean Ava
the interview.
DuVernay?
I'm sorry, Ava. Yes, yes. And how they see us, and they're talking about the one of the actors was saying how when he walked on set and he just seen all this beautiful blackness, like he down there cried, because normally
Wow.
you go on those sets and yeah, you may have a black director, but then
Right.
everybody else is white, and so but I think it's that intentional. She's intentionally being aggressive
Right.
to make that happen, and you can't care, because the truth is, and black folks, I think a lot of times we fall victim to this, like, oh, I don't want to be seen as playing favorites. Forget that.
Play
You know,
favorites, man. Jewish
that's what
community
I'm
ain't saying
saying. Like,
nothing about that.
like, come
I'm
on,
gonna learn from my Jewish brothers and sisters real
come
quick.
on, man. I mean, look, they put each other on. They put each other on, unapologetically, and we need to
Right.
do the same thing. And
I'm so
but
for it.
yeah, but we need to do the same thing though,
Yeah.
and then, make sure they're qualified and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
But do, because if I got to pick 1 to 1, I'm just
Right.
saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. That's really good. That's a really great point. And so, man, this is one of my favorite questions. Like just thinking about when you were, 22, 25, 30, like what do you wish someone had told you, or what's the advice you wish you had listened to?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just that self-worth. I mean, I
Mm,
think so much of my
mm,
my life I had doubt. And
yeah.
even, but looking back, I was like, dang, like you were amazing at every step, but you
Yeah.
just didn't realize it, and that's not, I'm not being cocky by any, but it's literally like understand your worth and what you accomplished at each step of the way professionally. And,
Yeah.
you have to be careful because you have to stay humble always. Because, what gets you there, I have a saying, I share this, with my kids all the time, what gets you there is hard work. What keeps you there is humility.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you start, believing your press and reading your own press and hype and all that stuff, then your ego takes over, and ego is not a good thing, right?
Right.
It was not. So when I say that I was doing some amazing things at each step, you can still value your work and value yourself without being cocky and without being, an egomaniac, right? You can do
Right.
both. You can do both, and so I wish I had understood that earlier, but
Right.
but I didn't, and I don't regret it because at the end of the day, my life's path is my life's path. But
Right.
you know,
Nothing's wasted.
no, but I think that's part of the work I've been able to do is when I was with Usher's New Look, we're taking kids all around the world, having them leading trainings in China and
Yeah.
in Hong Kong and in Africa and Kenya and all over. So they're leading these training, and it's building up their self-esteem and their understanding of self-worth and all those things. And Men of Courage, when I was at Ford, if you look at some of the content that came out of it, we spared no expense,
You're
with how
right.
we set the setup and the quality of everything. And that's because I didn't want brothers to walk in and and be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm worth. And
Right.
even when we're redesigning these buildings at the Boys and Girls Clubs, we're they're state of the art, best in class facilities, as good if not better than a WeWork, all that stuff from a substance standpoint. And that's because even though we're located in the hood, I want people to understand their worth.
Exactly. So important. So important. And then my last question is just around, this is my favorite question, right? So if you were to put together just like, conquering this new normal playlist, right? What would be your top 3 songs?
Oh, yeesh, that is really good. So, um, Bring Them Out.
Okay.
I think that's something because that's a song that always just gets me high. Hold on, I'm gonna cheat. Let me go through my
Yeah,
playlist.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me cheat. But Bring Them Out, that's something I love. Um, let me see here. Man, I might do Jay-Z's 444. I think
The whole
I
album?
love that, the whole album. I just might do
Mm,
the whole album. Like I just love
wow.
that because it's really like for me it was I'm old enough where I'm kind of past some of the materialistic things, and
Yeah.
I mean that album kind of sets the precedent of I think what's going to be important in this new normal, which is family, and that's a
Mm,
big theme, in there, and then real wealth, right? Credit, you gotta better keep your credit right, and
right.
that's something that class of 2020, gotta do. So yeah, I might do that whole
I love
album.
it. The whole
Now that I look
album. The whole
at,
album.
yeah, the
Perfect.
whole album.
Well, thank you so much, Shawn. I so appreciate you taking the time. I mean, and for everybody listening, there's a lot that we talked about. There's a lot of action you get to take. And as always, talk is cheap, talk is broke, and time is money. So get started today. Let us know in the comment section below exactly what steps you're going to take now to navigate this new normal and to just do it. And if you found any of this valuable, make sure you hit that like button. Student Dream is here to help you. We have our membership program. Let us know who else you want to hear from. All right. So let's get it, guys. Talk to you later. See you next time. That's a better way to end. Thank you, Shawn.
Hey, appreciate it.